Li Jian nodded and took the fruit. Immediately, he smelled a magical fragrance, which was a fragrance he had never smelled in his life, and he could not control his body. Li Jian grabbed the fruit and swallowed it into his stomach in big mouthfuls. A sticky liquid similar to blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. But after eating this fruit, he actually felt that his body was full of strength, and the feeling of hunger and coldness disappeared. Yuan Kongye said to Li Jian, "Father Li, your mission is to use your ability to cultivate this holy tree. Let it grow stronger. Only in this way can we support more believers." Li Jian nodded vigorously. "Yes, I will follow your instructions, Your Excellency." He walked to the tree, took out a dagger for self-defense from his body, and cut his finger. It was just a shallow wound, but his blood fell like a stream. The holy tree greedily absorbed every drop of his blood, and the strange red light on the tree became more blazing. Yuan Kongye did not let him bleed all the time, but walked over and used the gift of power to help him stop the bleeding. "From now on, you will use your blood to feed the holy tree every day. This is your glorious mission." Li Jian nodded, and a lofty look appeared in his eyes, as if this matter really became the meaning of his life. Half a month passed in a flash. Zhang Yi's shelter rebuilt the ice and snow defense line. As the days passed, no new enemies appeared, and everyone began to enjoy life. There was enough food, pleasant temperature, and no lack of leisure and entertainment, which made everyone very happy. However, Zhang Yi was prepared for danger in times of peace, and he did not forget what kind of environment he was in. Every day, he would spend a few hours learning kung fu with Liang Yu. Liang Yue was much more mature than before, and she was less talkative. During training, she would also teach Zhang Yi with a stern face. It was just that the two of them occasionally had some physical contact, and her face would still turn red unconsciously. Zhang Yi's attitude of being prepared for danger in times of peace made everyone in the shelter dare not neglect it. Uncle Yu practiced fighting and shooting at home every day. Yang Mi has also been making supernatural food, and then let Zhang Yi store it in the mutant space. And Zhang Yi is still constantly extending and trying to develop his spatial ability to the fatty Shu, began to have a sense of crisis. Especially during the Battle of the Five Armies, he saw the fighting style of Wei Dinghai, who had a more powerful ice and snow ability than him, Ice and Snow Lord. He urgently wanted to improve his strength to prevent dragging the shelter down. After all, Zhang Yi is not a kind person who would raise useless people. There is another thing that makes Fatty Shu feel most uneasy, that is, after he learned that Liang Yue also has the ability to eat mutants together. In the past, only Zhang Yi and Flower had such power in the shelter. Neither he nor Uncle Yu had it, and they didn't think it was unusual. Now there is another Liang Yue who also has this ability. This means that the talents among the mutants are also divided into high and low levels, and he and Uncle Yu are of the lower type. Alas, this can't go on. Otherwise, I have to cram every time I fight. Zhang Yi saw Fatty Shu working hard, so he walked over and told him about his training experience. The more you use your superpowers, the more proficient you become, and the more powerful you become. But the most important thing is to have a brain. He pointed to his head. If we use superpowers as weapons, in addition to improving the strength of the weapons, we must also have a brain to control the weapons. The small stones thrown by masters are more powerful than the shuriken thrown by ordinary people. Zhang Yi's explanation made Fatty Shu suddenly realize, I am too obsessed with the strength of my own abilities. But when the boss killed Ling Feng, he did not rely on the strength of his abilities, but on intelligence and brains. I can't devour the superpowers of other people, so my upper limit is limited. But if I can develop my abilities to the maximum extent, it may not be not powerful enough. After changing his mind, Fatty Shu's horizons also became clear. Time blinked, and it was March. It should have been the season for all things to revive, but the weather was still cold. However, this insignificant recovery cannot make people ignore the cold outside. After the Battle of the Five Armies, no other forces dared to approach and search, so it became a dead place. But on this day, the heavy dark green iron door of the Fourth Life warehouse suddenly shook violently. It was as if some huge and mysterious force was shaking it. Just a few dull and fierce collisions, the heavy bolt was directly broken. In the dark space, a series of faint green lights lit up, and at the same time, a nauseating smell of decay was emitted. From the gate, a group of tattered and dull corpses slowly emerged. It was like opening a can of herring that had expired for many years. The zombies appeared densely and soon filled the entire passage. As if they were inspired by something, they slowly walked towards the exit of the Zhishan base. The entrance filled with debris was cleared out by them soon. It was snowing heavily outside. Zombies came out from the West Mountain base in large numbers, thousands of them heading southeast. At this time, Zhang Yi was sitting on the sofa in the shelter, drinking coffee and chatting with Yang Xinshin. Yang Xinshin had a computer on her lap, and she slowly reported to Zhang Yi about the latest situation of the other four forces. That's right, in the past month or so, she had hacked into the networks of these forces. She quietly lurked and observed their movements. Unlike the Zhishan base, their network security level is even lower, even only at the level of small and medium-sized domestic companies in the past. Among them, the Qingpei base and the Snow Worship sect have the lowest level, and they don't even have personnel dedicated to maintaining network security. The means of communication rely on mobile phones and satellite phones. Facing these laymen, it is easy for Yang Xinshin to hack into their network. However, the intranet used in the core network area of the Chaoyu base and Yangsheng base has not been completely penetrated. But even so, it is enough for Zhang Yi to learn about their current movements. Based on the current situation, Qingpu base still chooses to maintain its status quo. They have no intention of external aggression and enjoy their current territory. After the defeat in the Battle of Five Armies, the leader Wei Dinghai of Chaoyu base was seriously injured, so they were the most conservative and have been shrinking their defenses. This even led to the emergence of other armed forces in the territory. The ruling position of Yangsheng base is still stable, and it has strongly suppressed several waves of rebellions in the territory. As for the Snow Worship sect, this force can be said to be the biggest beneficiary of that war. Their members are increasing rapidly, and it is possible that there are tens of thousands of believers. Zhang Yi sat cross-legged on the sofa and listened lazily to Yang Xinshin's report. There were no big surprises in everything. It was just the last piece about the Snow Worship sect that made him very curious. They are frantically recruiting followers. How do they support them? Among ordinary followers, there are old and young, male and female. Not everyone can become a useful soldier or laborer. More people are not necessarily useful, they may also become a burden. Even other Al-Qaeda organizations need to maintain their population when they have more supplies. Zhang Yi frowned slightly, not understanding the significance of this practice. Could it be that Yuan Kongye really thinks of himself as a savior? Yang Xinshin looked at Zhang Yi and said lightly, "In fact, there is another possibility." Tell me in detail. Zhang Yi held his cheek with a curious look on his face. Yang Xinshin explained calmly, "Now is the end of the world. It is more difficult than the troubled times. It is often at times like this that the order of the world will undergo tremendous changes. Brother Zhang Yi, you don't have any ambitions. You just want to live a stable life. But that doesn't mean other powerful people think so." Yang Xinshin paused and said, "Brother Zhang Yi, you should know the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, right?" Zhang Yi nodded. "Of course I know this. After all, it made such a big fuss at the time." Yang Xinshin laughed. The Taiping Heavenly Kingdom at the time, under the guise of a ridiculous god-worshipping religion, was able to seize half of the country and establish the kingdom for more than 10 years. It's nothing more than taking advantage of the chaos of that era and the suffering of the people. And the snow-worshipping religion may have the same idea. In this way, they can quickly become the #1 force in Tianhai City without even using force. When they have enough followers and their teachings are widely spread, even the 3 major bases or some of us may be assimilated. Finally, Yang Xinshin concluded, that is to say, someone in the snow worship cult wants to become a god. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes and smiled disapprovingly. This idea sounds a bit funny. But Yang Xinshin said to him seriously, believe me, brother, this is definitely not a joke. People will try to seize every opportunity to survive in desperate situations. Even if the average education level of the residents in Tianhai City is relatively high, they will obediently offer their knees in the face of life and death. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. He put his hands on his chest and looked out the window, saying disapprovingly, I admit what you said, but times have changed. Just relying on numbers does not rule everything. Even if they really have more than 10,000 followers, they still cannot have an absolute advantage in front of several other major forces with modern weapons. Yang Xinshin tilted his head and asked, then what if they use Yuan Kongye's blessing ability to awaken a large number of mutants? Zhang Yi frowned slightly. This question was worth his careful consideration. But soon he still gave his answer. The mutants are just stronger humans. There is no need to over-mythologize them, and I have seen many mutants, but there are only a few who are really strong enough to be feared, Zhang Yi said calmly. But Yang Xinshin looked at him with an admiring smile and said, brother, the reason you say that is because you are already very powerful now. Zhang Yi has the ability to devour them together and has devoured many powerful mutants in succession, including Ling Feng, the top combat force in the Xishan base. No one dared to make a conclusion about how strong Zhang Yi's ability was at this time. But Zhang Yi himself knew it. During the last battle of the 5 armies, he didn't even exert half of his strength when he was not forced into a desperate situation. The Snow Worship sect. Zhang Yi patted his thigh and whispered the name, looking out the window with a faint look. We must be more careful with this sect. As he was speaking, suddenly, Zhang Yi's eyes condensed. In the wind and snow, outside the shelter, many shadowy figures appeared from the end of the horizon and were slowly walking towards here. Looking at the scene in front of him, Zhang Yi was stunned for a second. For a moment, he thought he was dazzled. Because in such a cold external environment, how could so many people appear at the same time? So that, wherever he looked, there were people everywhere. Even in the last battle of the 5 armies, there were not so many soldiers gathered here. But when he looked carefully, he found that it was not his illusion. There was really a large number of shadowy people moving towards this side. Zhang Yi jumped up from the sofa and shouted, AI, notify everyone in the shelter to gather in the living room immediately and put on their equipment. As he spoke, Zhang Yi took off his pajamas and changed into combat clothes quickly. AI immediately sounded the alarm to alert everyone in the shelter. Although everyone was used to comfort after hearing the alarm, they immediately changed their clothes according to Zhang Yi's instructions and rushed to the living room in unison. Yang Xinshin was a little surprised. Brother, what's wrong? Zhang Yi put on his combat uniform, holding the Golden Desert Eagle in his hand, and stared out the window. Look outside carefully. Is there anything? Yang Xinshin controlled the wheelchair to move towards the window. She squinted her eyes and looked carefully, and finally noticed the dense, shadowy heads in the direction of the horizon. Yang Xinshin's face suddenly turned pale. Why are there so many people? Are there other forces joining forces to attack? Everyone rushed to the living room, one after another. Uncle Yu came over and asked, Zhang Yi, what's the situation? Is there an enemy attack? Zhang Yi picked up the telescope and looked over there. This sight made his back a little cold. The shadowy figures were not people, but a large group of corpses walking slowly towards this side. Their clothes were thin and worn, and their bodies were covered with purple corpse spots. Some of them had signs of festering on their faces. However, due to the protection of the extremely cold temperature, they did not completely rot into skeletons. Zombies really appeared. Zhang Yi took a breath of cold air and muttered to himself. Everyone was shocked and then quickly gathered to watch with telescopes. In the camera, those zombies slowly crawling towards the shelter were not fake. They were indeed all corpses. Suddenly, Liang Yue said unexpectedly, "These corpses didn't all crawl out of the Shishan base?" Zhang Yi was a little surprised. "How did you tell that?" Liang Yue came to Zhang Yi and pointed to him. "Look carefully. Some zombies are still wearing the clothes of the soldiers of the Shishan base." Zhang Yi looked in the direction Liang Yue pointed. Sure enough, if you look carefully, you can really see that some zombies are wearing that kind of standard military uniform. They should all be people from the Shishan base, especially the civilians in the Fourth Life warehouse, Liang Yu said in a deep voice. Zhang Yi put down the telescope in his hand. In addition to being surprised, his heart gradually calmed down. "It's weird, isn't it? It's such a cold ice age, but the corpses are not frozen and can still move." Zhou Care explained calmly. "Maybe some kind of virus has been released." Zhang Yi nodded. "Fortunately, they are just some corpses. They look a little scary, but it's understandable that they are carriers of the virus." He put on the helmet and then took out a rifle from the mutant space and slung it over his shoulder. "Let's go. Kill these guys who won't rest in peace even if they die. Remember, you have to hit the head to be effective when hitting zombies." Everyone came to their senses and suddenly realized, yes, they are just zombies. There is no need to be afraid. Not to mention that they are powerful and have a full range of weapons and equipment. For Zhang Yi and his friends, killing some zombies is as easy as cutting melons and vegetables. There is no danger at all. It's just a game of hitting zombies. Even Lu Karen couldn't help but run over to Zhang Yi and act like a spoiled child. "Brother, give me a gun. Let me shoot a few shots too." Zhang Yi thought about it and handed her a rifle. "You stay beside me honestly, and be steady when shooting. Don't accidentally hurt friendly forces." "Great! This is really Thai cool." Lu Karen excitedly changed into a set of combat uniforms, then held the gun and went out with Zhang Yi and others. As for Hua Hua, Zhang Yi let it stay at home. The main reason was that he was afraid that it would eat anything and get its stomach upset. Zhou Care and the others were still a little scared of zombies, fearing that they would be splashed with blood, so they did not follow them out. Everyone brought small stools over, ready to eat melon seeds while watching Zhang Yi and the others fight the zombies. Zhang Yi and the others went out, with a relaxed look on their faces. They had been training hard recently, but they had no way to test the results of their training. This was just the right time to find some live targets to vent their anger. Uncle Yu turned into a giant and rushed over with a huge engineer shovel. Zhang Yi shouted, "Uncle Yu, it's more direct to use a gun." Uncle Yu laughed and said, "No need, let's save some bullets." Liang Yue also had a fighting spirit in his eyes, and he drew his tang sword and rushed over. The three more stable people were behind, choosing to use guns to snipe. Zhang Yi was steady, while Fatty Shu and Lu Karen were simply practicing shooting. Zhang Yi raised his hand and shot, without any additional superpowers, only using the ability of accurate shooting. Immediately, a zombie was hit in the head and fell down. Seeing this, Lu Karen and Fatty Shu also quickly raised their guns. Lu Karen smiled excitedly and said, "Brother Shu, let's see who killed more zombies." Fatty Shu smiled and said, "Then I will definitely win. I touched the gun a month earlier than you." 2 months later, he raised the gun and shot. But suddenly, Zhang Yi found something wrong. The zombie that was clearly shot in the head by him actually slowly got up again. Because it was frozen too hard so it didn't penetrate? Impossible. Even if it is a zombie, it is still a flesh and blood body, and it is impossible that even bullets can't penetrate it. When Zhang Yi was wondering, the zombie stood up, with a deep black hole on its head, but not a drop of blood flowed out. It looked in the direction of the shelter, and at this time Uncle Yu and Liang Yue quickly rushed over. At this moment, the zombie group that originally looked dull and numb suddenly had a huge change. They let out a creepy howl from their throats, like wild dogs that grew up eating dead flesh in a mass grave. The next moment, thousands of zombies on the snowfield made the same roar and launched a crazy charge towards Liang Yue and Uncle Yu. The original sluggishness disappeared, and their running speed was even comparable to that of hounds. There seemed to be countless ants crawling in the scarlet eyes, which was extremely creepy. No one expected that those seemingly dull and numb zombies would suddenly change. They burst out at an astonishing speed and surrounded Uncle Yu and Liang Yue in an instant. Zhang Yi didn't even react. These zombies had already drowned the two of them, 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside, and the roaring sound made people tremble. Uncle Yu's voice came in shock and anger. He waved the engineer shovel in his hand and directly swept away more than a dozen zombies, and even cut 3 zombies in half. These zombies have been stiff and their bodies are extremely hard. They are not as easy to destroy as those rotten zombies on TV. Fortunately, Uncle Yu and Liang Yue are both enhanced mutants with very strong melee ability. Even if they are surrounded by thousands of zombies, they can still fight back effectively. Liang Yu held a tang sword, and the blade light passed through the air like cold moonlight. The zombie body comparable to steel was cut off cleanly. But the efficiency of this killing is too low and the number of zombies is too large. If they continue like this, once they run out of energy, they will definitely be eaten alive by zombies. No one expected this to unfold. Until a few seconds ago, Zhang Yi and his friends still had the impression of zombies from TV dramas. The zombies that move slowly, whose bodies are as fragile as mud, and can be killed by even a child with a branch, are obviously completely different from what they are facing now. They are stronger, more fierce, faster, and more difficult to kill. How can we kill something that won't die even if its head is blown up? Zhang Yi looked at the corpse on the ground that was broken into several pieces, still struggling to crawl towards Uncle Yu and Liang Yue, and his scalp began to numb. What the hell is this thing? Why can't it be killed? Fatty Shu and Lu Caron were also so scared that their faces turned pale, and they quickly opened fire to kill a few more zombies and rescue Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. However, this approach not only failed to kill the zombies, but attracted their attention. A huge group of zombies split into a group and rushed towards Zhang Yi and the other 2 people with a roar. Zhang Yi remained calm. Since headshots could not kill these zombies, guns were useless. He put away his pistol and drew a quadrilateral in the air with his hands. A huge dimensional gate blocked the 3 of them. The zombies were charging very fast. If they were in the past, they would probably be at the level of sprint champions. But they did not get close to Zhang Yi and sank into the dimensional gate one by one. Fatty Shu and Lu Caron breathed a sigh of relief. Great. Fortunately, there is the boss's dimensional gate. Use it to deal with all these brainless zombies. But as soon as Fatty Shu finished speaking, the zombies that were just rushing forward suddenly stopped in front of the dimensional gate. Zhang Yi frowned, realizing that things were not simple. Zombies are all mutated corpses and they should not have wisdom. But they can actually sense danger and stop, which is completely illogical. There are only 2 possibilities. First, they are not dead things, but another kind of creature with wisdom. Second, someone is secretly controlling these zombies. Obviously, the second possibility is the most likely. Are there any mutants who can control zombies? Just like the last time, the bodies of the soldiers disappeared for no reason. If that's the case, then everything can be explained. In this case, as long as the controller in the zombie group is killed, the crisis can be resolved. However, looking at the thousands of zombies in front of him, Zhang Yi couldn't help but have a headache. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack for him to find the controller among so many zombies. So Zhang Yi decided to use a more relaxed method to deal with this matter. With a wave of his right hand, a heavy tank suddenly appeared on the snow, pressing the snow surface into a depression. Uncle Yu, Liang Yue, listen to my command. When you count to 3, you all try your best to jump into the sky, Zhang Yi said as he got into the tank and started loading shells. This made him not very good at driving, but he had asked Uncle Yu how to fire the cannon. Uncle Yu and Liang Yue immediately understood what Zhang Yi was going to do. Okay. Zhang Yi loaded the shells and began to count down. 3, 2, 1. As soon as 1 inch was counted, Uncle Yu and Liang Yue had already fought hard to kill all the zombies around them and then jumped into the sky with all their strength. Both of them were reinforcement-type mutants with very strong physical strength. With a leap, they jumped more than 10 meters high. The muzzle of the tank also made a deafening roar. Boom! A shell exploded in the zombie swarm, and in an instant it was like a flower blooming in the center, blowing hundreds of zombies away, with broken limbs and arms flying everywhere. The zombie swarm was blown apart, and Liang Yue and Uncle Yu got a chance to breathe and hurried to the shelter. The zombies were chasing them relentlessly. Their speed was too terrifying, and they were about to rush to them. However, due to their instinct to prey on living things, they gathered together, just in front of the muzzle. Zhang Yi opened the door of the tank and walked out. He silently took out strange-looking equipment from the dimensional space. It was 2 large metal cans connected to the long tube in front by pipes. It looked like a machine for spraying pesticides. This thing is called a flamethrower. Zhang Yi has never used it since he seized it from the Shishan base, because this thing has a short range and is a bit troublesome to carry. However, it is very useful in the face of these unkillable zombies. Zhang Yi lay on the ground, fixed the flamethrower, and then a more than 10-meter-long dragon of fire sprayed out. Even in such a cold temperature, the temperature of the flamethrower made these zombies feel hot. Their clothes were ignited and their bodies were burning. Because they were all gathered together, the effect of this flame burning was also very outstanding. At first, Zhang Yi was a little worried that these zombies would pounce on him after being ignited. But unexpectedly, after they caught fire, they seemed a little out of control and their limbs were twisted wildly. They let out strange howls in their throats, and their bodies made crackling sounds like boiling lard. Just when everyone was about to fight with all their strength, the zombies turned their heads and ran away. Thousands of zombies turned their heads and ran in the opposite direction of the shelter. This scene stunned Zhang Yi and his companions. This was the first time they heard that zombies could feel fear and retreat strategically. Zhang Yi got up from the ground, and he cautiously looked at the backs of the zombies going away, his eyes full of fear. Now we can be sure of one thing. These zombies must be controlled by someone in secret. When he found it difficult to kill us, he chose to run away in order to keep these zombies. Liang Yue frowned, thought about it, and shook his head. I really can't imagine how humans can control thousands of zombies at the same time. And these corpses are frozen, and they can't be killed even by beheading. If he really has such a powerful ability, he can be the king of Tianhai City. After all, the most common thing outside now is corpses. Zhang Yi looked at a pile of broken and charred corpses on the ground, and some of them were still moving. They only had broken limbs and arms left, and they still had terrible vitality. Just like an earthworm cut into many pieces, there is no way to kill it. When he thought about the possibility of facing more such things in the future, even Zhang Yi's head ached. We must figure out what this thing is and who is controlling it in what way. Zhang Yi walked over and tried to collect some of the zombie fragments into his own space. It went smoothly, which also showed that they were indeed dead bodies and did not have biological characteristics. But they were still moving, which was incredible. Could it be that there are really some methods of controlling corpses similar to the corpse driving in Xiangxi? Am I short-sighted and unwilling to believe in the existence of metaphysics? Zhang Yi's heart became more and more troubled. He threw the flamethrower to Fatty Shu. Burn all these things! At least now we know that they can still be burned to death. Everyone was like this. No one could explain what happened today. Perhaps since that day when thousands of corpses disappeared on the battlefield, a mysterious suspense has been entangled in everyone's heart. And with the emergence of today's zombie crisis, everyone can no longer choose to ignore it. Although they successfully repelled the zombies, everyone's faces were full of confusion. After returning to the shelter, Zhou Qi, Yang Mi, and others were also very scared. From their pale faces, it can be seen that they were also scared. After all, Who has seen such a zombie that is more ferocious than a dog? It's still a large group of zombies. If it weren't for Zhang Yi and his men here today, even fully armed soldiers would be torn to pieces. Could it really be a ghost? Yang Mi patted her chest in fear, with fear in her eyes. The elderly Aunt Zhou Haimei frowned slightly. It's hard to say. This kind of thing has always been better to believe it than not. It's best to stay away. As a veteran actress who has been working in the entertainment industry for many years, Zhou Haimei has always believed in geomancy and numerology. It is said that she was not popular when she was young, and later found a famous master in the circle to change her name for her, which made her very popular. Some things cannot be explained clearly with the current level of human science, but they do exist. Zhang Yi did not speak, but sat on the sofa and began to think about the strange things that happened recently. These thousands of zombies came from the Shishan base. However, when he, Fatty Shu, and Uncle Yu went to the Shishan base to buy goods, they actually felt something strange around them. But at that time, he just thought it was a psychological effect and did not pay too much attention to it. Before leaving, he sealed the entrance to the Shishan base again, which was actually for peace of mind. In addition, a while ago, the bodies of the soldiers disappeared by themselves and entered the Sikh subway station. Behind all these signs, there must be some big secrets. Someone must be controlling those bodies. When several women were talking about whether it was a supernatural event, Zhang Yi made a decisive conclusion. Those zombies know how to avoid my dimensional door and know how to escape. This is the performance of intelligent creatures. So there must be a strange person who can control the corpses and attack us in secret. Zhang Yi's words made sense and everyone nodded. But Zhou Qi raised another confusion. But why did he come to attack us? We have never offended anyone. Recently, only Chaoyu Base and Yangsheng Base have held grudges against us. But if they had such a powerful force, wouldn't they have used it in that battle? Why wait until now? Zhang Yi shook his head. It happened so suddenly, it's not easy to figure it out. Anyway, we should stay in the shelter and don't go out. It's very safe here, and those zombies alone can't break in. Let's wait and see. At this point, Zhang Yi suddenly thought of something, looked at Yang Xin and said, Xin, pay attention to other forces in the next few days. See if this phenomenon is only encountered by us, or is it common in Tianhai City? Yang Xin nodded. Okay, leave this matter to me. Zhang Yi said to Uncle Yu and Liang Yu again, Uncle Yu, Liang Yue, you need to check your body carefully. Prevent being scratched by those things. If there is really a zombie virus, we need to be careful. As soon as Zhang Yi finished speaking, everyone silently kept a certain distance from Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. After all, there are similar plots in zombie movies. People who are bitten or scratched by zombies will also be infected with zombie viruses. Uncle Yu and Liang Yue were a little speechless, but they also understood that Zhang Yi's caution made sense. Okay, we will cooperate with the inspection. Zhang Yi smiled and spread his hands. Relax, I'm not doubting you just for safety reasons. In fact, they were all wearing bulletproof combat uniforms, and it was unlikely that those zombies would bite them. Zhang Yi was just being cautious. He and Zhou Qi took Uncle Yu and Liang Yue to check their bodies. They didn't find any wounds, so they were relieved. Okay, nothing happened. You two can leave first, Zhang Yi said to Uncle Yu and Liang Yue with a smile. After sending the two away, only Zhang Yi and Zhou Qi were left in the infirmary. Zhang Yi looked at Zhou Qi and his tone became cautious. Zhou Qi, there is something I need you to do. Zhou Qi immediately realized what Zhang Yi wanted her to do. Are you asking me to study zombies? Zhang Yi nodded. I have to confirm whether these things really have viruses in their bodies, or are they controlled by mutants with supernatural powers.